Hey, brothers and sisters, welcome back. And today we are going to be sharing our first ever testimony on this channel. That isn't mine. We're going to be hearing from my really good friend Joshua. And I just wanted to preface this by saying if you watch this and you feel inclined to share your testimony, please feel free to reach out to me. I would love to get with you and get your testimony out to the public. You can either drop a comment. If you have me on socials, you're more than welcome to reach out to me there. There's no right or wrong way to do it. As you're about to see, Josh kind of wrote his out and flowed through it so beautifully. But if you're not sure, I also have a list of guided questions that we can use as well that could be kind of helpful for you. So without further ado, let's get into it. Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome back. And today we are going to be sharing a testimony, and I'll pass it over to you so you can introduce himself.
All right. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Joshua Birdwell. And yes, as our lovely and kind host has mentioned, I will be sharing my testimony of various struggles and how I came to accept Christ. What I've also have done is usually whenever I have given it, because I have given it multiple times since 2020, I usually break it up into 3 parts. In the past is what I've done. But to make it a little bit more cohesive, I'll just go ahead and just say it all the way through instead of saying like part 1, part 2, part 3. And here we go. So I myself originally was born in Waco, Texas. My family consisted of my mom, my dad, and my sister. My mom, she was a stay-at-home mom / housewife, and my dad worked in the restaurant business. He worked for various places, such as Luby's cafeteria. That's what he was doing when he met my mom. During that time, they moved from Waco, Texas, lived in McAllen, Memphis, Tennessee, and Dallas before they moved back to San Antonio when I was about 4 years old. And then my dad had his own restaurant downtown. Growing up, I was definitely the least athletic of all of my cousins, and that led to early thoughts and stages of feeling like a disappointment and that I wasn't good enough. Because I had a lot of cousins who were, like I said, into sports. They were into like football, baseball, basketball, and that certainly just was not me. I definitely was sort of a impatient child. I put a lot of pressure on myself in a sense of like, like I need to get this right away, and I don't need to practice. What do you mean I got to practice? And no, I'm not going to do that. Growing up, we didn't really do a whole lot of family trips. Most of our trips consisted of going to the beach or going to visit my mom's family back in the Midwest in Illinois. Although probably the best trip that we did was we went to Durango, Colorado. That was mostly just exciting because it was something different. It was out of the norm, and that's something that always stuck out with me. I spent a lot of time by myself. I definitely was a curious kid. One day when I was about 9 years old, I ended up getting into my mom's closet and trying on her stuff. She caught me, and she ended up resorting to yelling instead of asking me why did you do this. So as a kid, whenever you are told by a parent or other adult figure, don't do this, don't do that, it makes you want to do it more. Because it's like, ooh, this is scandalous or whatever. So I would secretly dress when no one was home. Like I had a time down to a T. Like I would hear the garage door. I would be like, okay, she's pulling out of the driveway. Okay, she's pulling out of the neighborhood. Okay, I got this amount of time. And that's what I would do. As far as my faith journey goes, we seldomly went to church. We probably only went like maybe once, maybe twice a year, usually around Easter or Christmas. I know there's that ongoing joke of the church parking lot like always being crowded at those times, and people being like, "Why is this so crowded?"
Sometimes they call them the creasters, Christmas and Easter.
I've never heard that term before. That's pretty funny. Yeah. My dad grew up going to church with his brothers, but my mom did not. She seldomly went. It wasn't until I got older that my dad had always wanted us to grow up in the church, but rather than giving a reason as to why that didn't happen, he would basically just put the excuse on my mom and saying like, "Oh, your mom took forever to get ready, and that's why we never went." But I didn't find that out until I got older. I knew that there was an existence of God, but I didn't really quite understand. I knew that He existed. My earliest memories are of like my grandmother giving me like little like the Bible for kids, or as I like to call it, the G-rated version. So minus all the violence and other wildness that is in the Bible. So, like I said, I knew that he existed, but I just didn't really quite understand the ins and out of it. When I was about 12 years old, my parents got divorced, and that definitely made me feel more of an outsider because, like, I was the only one in my family, the only one of my friends whose parents were divorced. And the other thing that made me kind of feel bad in a sense was that like no one really ever asked me like, "Hey, how's it going? Like, you doing okay or whatever?" And I think it's probably just because I don't really fault anybody for this, but I think it's just because people don't really know how to ask or what to say, just because they've never gone through it. So within a matter of 6 months after the divorce, my mom moves me and my sister back to her home state of Illinois. Moving in the middle of the year, that's not a lot of fun.
No.
In January.
And you got to like restart too and make new friends and
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would have been easier had it happened like at the end of the school year, but that's neither here nor there. My mom ended up moving on and I began to date, and this particular gentleman that she was talking to for a while, we were at a family gathering, and due to some unfortunate misinformation that I did or was told, he punched me in the arm, and that led to a era of distrusting males or adult figures in general, because there's that fear of like, oh, if you speak up about something or if you give your opinion on something, the reaction is, oh, they're going to hit me, or oh, they're going to lash out or something. So that probably led to a lot of introvertedness. So going from a area that was nearly almost 1 million to a area that is less than 10,000, it certainly was a culture shock. I didn't really exactly fit in, because when it comes to small towns, for anyone that grew up in a small town or who moved to a small town growing up, it's the kind of area where if you weren't born there, like starting at exactly kindergarten or even before elementary school, it's like, I think it's a South Park meme, you're going to have a miserable time or a bad time. But yeah, that's the meme that comes to mind. So I didn't really feel comfortable in my skin, so that led to a lot of like self-harm, and it led to a lot of thoughts of like not wanting to live, and I even tried to harm myself to the point of it almost led me to suffocation. But praise God, that did not happen. I still was dressing up seldomly. My mom eventually caught me again, but rather than asking me why, it just resorted to yelling, saying like, "This is not what boys do. You need to do male activities. You need to do this. You need to do that." I eventually graduated from high school, and I moved back. I moved back to Texas and ended up starting college and starting a job. And that's when the hand of God stepped in. One of my coworkers offered or invited me to go to his local church. It was through this particular church that led me to. It was on a step of me leading to Christ and accepting Him. My sophomore year, I was taking a humanities class, and my final assignment was I had to interview someone in the community. I was going down the list, and something just clicked in my brain, and I was like, "Hey, how about I interview a minister?" The professor was okay with that, so I ended up emailing the minister at my coworker's church, and we got together on a Thursday afternoon of April 30th, 2009. And I asked all the basic questions, like, hey, what is it that you do outside of giving a sermon? How long have you been doing it? What led you to it? What do you do during the week when you're not serving or when you're not giving a sermon? Like, what does your day consist of? And he was very nice. He was very, very gracious. And then as I got to the end of the interview, he asked about my relationship with Christ, and I told him, well, I didn't really exactly have one, and I even told him that about like when I was a kid, and even when I was a teenager too. Like I had tried going to church, but I felt that like the popular one that was in that area, it seemed like there was more. Seemed like that there was more input on the worship aspect rather than the sermon itself. And I ended up going, but I'm just like, nah, this really isn't scratching that itch. So anyway, the particular pastor asked me if I would like to accept Christ that day, and I said yes. And so closed my eyes, and he prayed for me, and that led to an acceptance on April 30th, 2009. Yeah, so I had thought that was the end of the story, but turns out that was not it, because there were still some other things I needed to work on. I was still distrusting of male figures, and even like those in my circle of friends. There were even some friends that I hung out with at that time in which that I always questioned if they were my real friends or if they were just hanging out with me because they wanted something, or if I had something that they didn't have, whether that be a car, money to go do stuff. So that led to a lot of questioning. I ended up graduating from college in 2013, and it was around this time that I began to start dating. And it really unfortunately, that led to a comparison trap. I was comparing myself to a lot of my cousins at the time because all of them were getting married like as soon as they graduated from college, or like right after college. So I felt that I was that I was falling behind, or that like I was a failure for whatever reason. I felt like, oh no, this is my timeline. This is what I got to do. So I began dating. Within 2 years of graduating high school, I had 2 relationships. One of them led to an engagement, but it ended up leading to a broken engagement, which at the time I was very upset about. I felt like a failure. I felt like I let down my family. But at the same time, looking back on it, I'm grateful that it ended up not working out, because in hindsight, that relationship was so toxic, and it should have ended several months prior to when it did. But can't really reflect on that. But I do see it as a valuable lesson, that's for sure. So because of that broken engagement, it led back to loneliness again. And because I was lonely, it ended up leading to a phone sex addiction. Because like here I am, like, wanting to get something out of this, but I didn't really have a relationship. So ironically, I ended up getting a friendship out of it, because there was this friend in particular. She said that whenever I would call in, a lot of my stuff was harmless, G-rated compared to all the other stuff that she was that she would hear on a daily basis. Like some to the extent where she was like, "Is this really real or is this fake?" And yeah, it just really made me sad to hear that there's so much. There's a lot of sickness in this country. A lot of sickness in this country. From a sexual side of things. So, and also with this loneliness, I ended up opening up about dressing up privately, and I ended up opening up to some friends, and they were really excited about it. They're just like, "Oh, that's cool. We have to do makeover session or whatever." And so that led to a few of them. And at the time, I was like, "Oh, this is great. This is awesome. I'm feeling so great about myself."
Yeah, you felt supported in that moment?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I felt supported in that moment. It's like, oh, and this person is not yelling at me. This is someone that's encouraging it. But in looking at the photos in hindsight, I could tell that like whenever I would look in my eyes, that okay, there's an issue here, but this is not fixing it.
Mm-hmm.
This is not fixing the issue. But during this time, I ended up switching jobs, which led to a consistent schedule finally, because I got tired of closing at like 1 in the morning and stuff. So because of that consistent schedule, I was able to find the church that I'm currently at, and I ended up getting baptized in September of 2019. I ended up joining a life group in 2020, and during that time, I ended up joining this what's called an identity group, is where you learn about your relationship in Christ. You read various stories, and you also read the Book of Exodus. And each week, somebody shares their testimony.
Mm-hmm.
Because of this identity group, it led me to trusting male figures for the first time. For the first time in many years. Because of that, was able to learn and accept and forgive my parents. One, I'm currently forgiving right now. The other one is work in progress. But I am learning that they are human, like all of us. They make mistakes, and they're doing the best they can. As of this recording, I'm currently in a relationship with someone that I love and who loves me for me. At my worst, I can procrastinate and stumble in my responses to a question. But at my best, I care for others, and I will be there to listen to those who may need someone to hear them as well. And that is thy testimony. So
That is awesome.
cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I do have a couple questions because I feel like
Yes.
that is such a powerful story that you shared, and it's something that a lot of people, especially in our generation, can relate to. So I want to go back to that part where you first started dressing up,
Mhm.
right? When your mom
Yeah.
first caught you and yelled at you.
Mhm.
Did you go into that dressing up as in like just play, or was there an identity issue already going on that you might have been aware of?
At that time, I think it was just more like a play, and just out of curiosity, thinking like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this is new. So,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this is new. Like, what is this? So, and I just, yeah, just kind of went away with it.
Yeah.
For a while, I did have like an identity issue
Mm-hmm.
with that. I thought that like, oh, okay, like is this like is this me? Like, is this something that I'm like supposed to like do and go through or whatever? So, and I'm like, am I the only one that feels like this? But it wasn't until we got the internet at that time, like a few years later, and I was like, oh, and just doing research on my own, I was like, at that time, I was like, oh, I'm not the only one who goes through this.
Mm-hmm.
So at that time, there was like a sense of like acceptance of internet acceptance, I guess, and just being like, oh, okay, this is not just me. So
Yeah, no, I like how you brought up, that getting yelled at. I feel like it just makes it worse. And I get it, parents sometimes don't know what to do in that moment,
yeah,
but they panic
hmm
because they know things that we don't know.
yeah,
But I feel like, for those who might be watching, if you find yourself in that situation with your kiddo, um, do you have any advice for like how a parent should go about that? How would you have liked to have been addressed as that child?
Well, the first thing that I would do is I definitely would not yell at them, because I feel that yelling doesn't really solve anything. I mean, I get it, we're human, we make mistakes, and, sometimes we don't know what to do in certain situations, but I would definitely sit that child down and just talk to them and just let them know, like, hey, I'm not mad at you, I'm not upset at you. I just want to know why. That's all. And just, yeah, yeah, just out of just mere curiosity, I just want to make sure that you're okay. So,
Yeah, because I think about it, and I primarily was hanging around my dad and my brother as a
mhm.
little girl. So for me, a lot of the things they did, I wanted to do
Yeah.
just because it's, as kids, we're imitating, especially when you have a parent that you feel closer to, you want to
Mm-hmm.
do what they do, even though you're not recognizing these gender roles. And so I remember I would ask for boy toys on Christmas,
Yeah.
and they got me this like GI Joe playset.
Mm-hmm.
And I, had like a fake knife and a fake grenade, and I was out in the front yard playing with the neighborhood boys like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think of how would it have been if my dad had yelled at me? Like, with that, like you said, when you're
Yeah.
yelled at, it
hmm
makes you want to do it more.
Yeah.
And so I think, not saying that you have to give in to everything that kids want to do, but recognizing that if it's just playing and they're being silly,
Yeah.
maybe not making it seem so horrible, especially when they see other kids, in daycare that might be playing with dolls or playing dress up with the
Yeah.
girls.
hmm
And so I love that you brought that up, because I feel like that's something that people think that they're doing to help, but all it does is further the desire of, like, why are you
Right.
telling me this is so bad? Like, other people do it. You wear
Yeah.
makeup. What's the problem?
Yeah, exactly. And I think also, like, and I was even thinking about this the other day. I think maybe my mom was just because she's the youngest of four, and she's the youngest of four, and she's the only girl
Mhm.
in her family. So yeah, she grew up around her older brothers,
Mhm.
and they played outside and they rode bikes and skateboards and things like that. And I don't know, maybe my mom was just afraid that, like, I was going to get bullied or teased or something. That was probably what she was thinking.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, she probably just didn't want me to go through that. She probably
Mhm.
didn't want me to get teased. She probably didn't want me to get, like, bullied or
Mhm.
harassed or anything like that. So I think that's probably where her mindset was coming from.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel like I see that a lot with parents, again, not that they're bad people. It's just
No.
sometimes the reactions are not helpful in the situation,
Yeah. hmm
Sometimes they can push it the other way, even if the parent means the best of
hmm
intentions with whatever correction they're choosing. It's just, I like that you mentioned that, um, you know, the yelling only kind of added to it, because I feel like that's what a lot of people are feeling. And if you look at modern day, like, LGBTQ communities, and
hmm
you look at the way that sometimes our Christian brothers and sisters treat them, it's like, you're not helping,
Yeah.
you're just making it worse. You're making the rest of us look bad. There's a way to talk to them without, you know,
hmm
telling them they're all going to burn in hell, because
Yeah.
that's nobody's decision other than
hmm
God's.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, really, the only thing you can do is just talk to them, casually and calmly. So,
Mhm.
because, yeah, like, yelling doesn't really solve anything. So,
Agreed.
yeah.
And then you brought up something else that was actually kind of interesting, and it just makes me think of kind of what I'm still struggling with is, you mentioned that the church was more heavy on the worship.
Yeah. Yeah. hmm
And I think that's interesting. And I was just wondering if you can give a little bit more of, like, just your perspective of the things. I know you have a great church that you go
hmm
to now. I've heard you speak highly of it, but
Yes.
so not talking about them,
Oh no. Yeah.
but what are some of the things that you tend to look for when you go into these churches? And why is it that you seek something that's more sermon friendly as opposed to worship heavy?
I think it's because when it comes to, like, the worship side of things, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm all for worshiping, praising God, and things like that. I think for me, it's just because I didn't grow up on, like, worship music. It's kind of hard for me to, like, get into it. I
Mhm.
mean, there are some really good songs, wonderful artists. So I'm not dissing
Mhm.
the Christian music scene. I would never do that. But I feel that, like, a lot of churches, in a sense, they focus more on that because it draws the people in.
Mhm.
Like, the church I went to with my ex girlfriend, oh my gosh, that was, like, way worship heavy. Like, it felt like a neon light show. And I'm
Mhm.
like, what is this? I'm like, it honestly felt like I had stepped into, for any comic book superhero nerds out there, it honestly felt like I walked into the set of Joel Schumacher's Batman Forever or Batman and Robin. It just felt like a flashy neon light show. And it felt like this, and also the sermon that came after it, it was just like, it didn't really have that much beef to it. Like,
Mhm.
I'm not getting a lot out of this.
Mhm.
It just felt like really, really light. It didn't really cause people to think about, okay, how can I be a better Christian? How can I be a better person in my daily life? Like, how can I improve my walk with God?
Mhm.
And, like, with some, I feel don't really do that.
Mhm.
Um, but but again, I'm not dissing worship. I'm not dissing worship. I mean, if that's how people, like, feel they get connected with Christ, then I'm all for it.
Mhm.
But for me, it's more of, like, the sermon side of things.
Yeah. No, I think, and like you said, no, we're not here to bash
Oh
anybody at
no,
all.
not at all.
But I think it's the reason it's important to at least put that portion out there is because I think a lot of times, like you said, like, it does draw people in. But
Yeah.
I think sometimes when you focus too much on one thing,
Mhm.
it can also push certain people away.
Yeah.
And I know for myself and many others that I've spoken to, like coming from very broken backgrounds, you're looking for the meat and potatoes. And
Yes.
like, yes, you know, worship is great. And it is a great thing. And I'm not
It
saying
is.
we shouldn't do it.
Oh
It's
no,
just,
no, not at all.
I, I wish that there was more, kind of like I said, that meat and potatoes to it, you
Yeah.
know, because I watch a lot of theologians and there's so many like hidden meanings in the Bible. I remember
Mhm.
one of my favorites was, it's in one of the Gospels, where Jesus told Peter to cast
Mhm.
his net to the other side of the boat.
Oh yes.
And then he pulls up the fish. And I remember my husband found, that the number of fish, because there was such a specific number, that it actually represented the multitudes of nations.
Mhm.
And not only that, but there was something with the number that when you translate the number, I believe, into like Hebrew or something, Keegan, correct me in the comments. But it said something along of like, I am.
Mhm.
And so there's so many little things that just happened in that story
Right.
that like you don't hear coming from a lot of churches. And again, I'm not like knocking them. It's just that's what I want. I
Yeah.
want these hidden meanings. I want to
Mhm.
know how to read the Bible. I want to know, you know, is this book literal? Is this more what do you call it? Like maybe metaphorical, you know, they're
Yeah.
all different ways to read it. So I'm glad that somebody else has the same
Yeah.
idea as me. Again, it's not that the other ones are bad. It's just
No.
that we all have these different things that we're looking for. And I think that might be helpful for some churches to maybe, if they see this or watch this or anything, maybe that's something that they're like, hey, maybe we should throw a little bit of these nuggets into our next sermons.
Right. Yeah. But I definitely do love the fact that like in like the middle, or at least in my church, for example, that like in the middle of worship, you know, there's always like some sense of like encouragement, or at least before a song begins. That's something that I always like too. Like there's one gentleman on the worship team. And at the end of like the reprisal song at the end, he always, you know, because we have like a prayer team that comes up at the end, and he always like makes it a reminder to tell people, hey, if you got something that's on your heart, or if there's someone that you need to pray with, he always says, don't let today go by without not saying anything. So there is the meaning in there. So
Yeah, no,
mm-hmm.
that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. I still need to come with y'all one time and
Yes,
share it out.
yes, definitely.
And then the last thing I had, which again is something I feel like a lot of people struggle with, is like you said, that the relationship aspect and like the pressures of family. And even though they might be poking fun or playfully like, hey, when am I going to get a grandkid? You know, I do know that I hear a lot of people talk about that and how it can weigh down on them. And I guess for me, it makes me feel sad because I know that God has plans for everything, right?
Yes.
God has perfect timing. Because if I would have met my husband 5 years before I did, we would have never worked out. I was a mess.
Yeah.
And so I think one thing that I was hoping to get across to people is that, you know, yes, we are supposed to, you know, get married and multiply and be fruitful and all of those things, but it always works on his timeline for him to bring us that perfect match that he wants, the person he wants to see us with. And so I was just wondering if you had anything that you would like to tell people on that, like, you know, as far as waiting and maybe feeling those pressures from other around you.
Well, that is a good one. Definitely one of the things that I have been praying about, especially like since my last relationship ended in 2021. So I got with my current girlfriend in December 24, and in that time, in that 3 year period, it was definitely an ongoing prayer when it came to me, like being in a relationship, potentially becoming a father. And one of the things that I prayed to God about was, okay, Lord, you know, I'm going to trust you in this. You know, if it's in your will for me to become a father, then great. I welcome it. I will accept it, and I will wait on your timing. But if it's not in your will for me to be a father, then I pray for peace over it. Then allow me an opportunity to maybe become a father figure in some other aspect. If it's not like biological or something. So yeah, that was a big prayer, especially in 2024. That was a big prayer. Yeah. So, and just my current girlfriend, she's older than me and she has children of her own. Um, but that was something that that like we had to have a talk about, like, early on when we got together. So and and yeah, like my mindset with children, which I like kids. Like if there are those that have families with young children, God bless you. It's awesome. Um, but for myself, I mean, yeah, it was something that I just prayed over. Like, hey, if it's in your will for me, great. If it's not, then bring me peace over it, God. And I have been blessed in a sense with like both my parents are like, hey, if you don't become a parent, then it's okay. I know my dad has said like, hey, if you don't, it's fine. And I know, and my mom would just be like, hey, if you do, that's great. If not, it's okay. I still remember when my engagement fell through. She's like, I'm too young to be a grandmother. So
Put a little silver lining on that for her.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I think sometimes there's a lot of pressure to get married and have children, and I think that people mean it in a good way when they ask,
Oh yes.
But I think sometimes it can feel a little pressuring, especially if it's something that you're dealing with or you're praying for or you're waiting on, and then it's like this person's like, well, when are you going to get married? It's like, why don't you ask God?
Yes,
that's what
exactly.
I'm waiting on.
Exactly.
And I know there's a lot of pressures with having children too. Like for myself, me and my husband, we don't foresee ourselves having children. Not that I'm against them. I love kids; they're great. It's just with medical issues. I don't know how my body would handle that. And I know for me, like whenever I go to churches or talk to people about it, I'll politely try to, I don't think it's for me, or I don't think that's God's will. And like immediately people want to start praying, and I'm like, please don't.
Yeah.
Like I physically don't think my body could handle a pregnancy. And so, and I've prayed on it too, but I just think that's something that, again, I know it's with good intention. Like I know people mean well by it, but I think sometimes it's just accepting when somebody gives you a very vague answer like that. Like, I don't think it's God's will for me. Like, oh, okay. Like, just leave that there, because you never know what somebody's praying for or asking for, and or what they're going through.
Right.
We're all made a little differently. We all have different purposes.
Yes, we are. Yeah, I mean, maybe for future ones, maybe they can like pray for peace and wisdom over it. I think that would probably be like a better response to it. Or maybe praying for them in a sense of like, hey, pray for them to make peace about a certain decision that they want to do or something, or if it's not in your will, then lead them to a conscientious decision or something like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree, and those are the steps I've taken to. I've asked God, and I asked Him to give me that peace about it, and I'm very at peace with it. I love my nieces and nephews. I get to spoil them so much, and spoil even my friends' kiddos on their birthdays and so on. This is great. I love doing this.
Yeah, same. One of my best friends, he has two little boys. One is 6, the other one's 4. And the few times that I have gone over there, it's so much fun. Like, I still remember one time I went over to their house, and I hadn't even texted my friend yet, but like I could see the little faces sticking out the window, and they're like, oh, he's here, woohoo! So we all right, we have a playmate.
Yes, no,
so we have someone to play with. All right, so yeah, and it's just fun, like the little things, like playing with remote control cars and building stuff together, and that's always a lot of fun. So it's really good.
Yeah, I love the innocence of everything and the curiosity. I love seeing when you show them something new that like you've known since like elementary school or something, and you show it to them, and they're like mind blown. It's just like the coolest thing ever to see, like the awe and wonder on their face of like, whoa.
Yeah, it's great.
But okay.
Well, any final questions, final thoughts, anything that might have been left unclear in my testimony?
I thought everything came out very clear. I'm sure if anybody has questions, feel free to leave them in the comments and we can get those answered for you. But I was wondering if there's any scriptures favorite scriptures or anything that helped you through this time on your on your spiritual journey.
Oh yes, absolutely. There is one that, and I even have my scripture with me.
He's more prepared than I was.
Yeah.
I left and I was like, darn it, I forgot my Bible.
No worries. Yeah. Well, I brought this because this was one that I focused on A lot, especially when my last relationship ended almost 4 years ago. And it's in Galatians, so I brought it with me just so I can make sure I get it right.
Galatians is a good one.
Oh yeah, that's where we're currently at in my sermon series right now at church.
Oh, awesome.
So it's Galatians 1:10. For am I now seeking the approval of man or of God, or am I trying to please man? If I were still trying to please man, I would not be a servant of Christ.
Oh,
yeah, that's a beefy one.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's a beefy one, and that one got me through a lot, especially with all the comparison games that we see on like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X or whatever it's called. Threads, like I don't even know what Threads is, but I see. Yeah, if someone explain to me what Threads is, so because I see that advertised a lot on Instagram, and I'm like, I have no idea what Threads is.
I think it's like an Instagram type, or not, like a Twitter, but we're now X. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Something like that, but like through the. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have one either. I'm tired of social media.
Yeah. Or TikTok.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I do love that. I remember. Sorry, y'all. There's a man on a little. I don't know what that is going by.
Yeah.
So I will say I love that you brought that up, because I did remember seeing. I think it was a reel on Instagram, because I don't have TikTok, but it was people pleasing is not a fruit of the spirit.
No.
And I think that verse kind of just backs that claim up. And I think that's something that a lot of people still to this day are dealing with, is trying to make everyone else around them happy. And then not only is making other people happy not always going to make God happy, but now you're burning yourself out. You're trying to adapt to all of these things that you think people want you to be. And sometimes you'll go the extra mile for someone thinking it'll make them happy, and then they're not happy, and now you become resentful of them. It's just this whole, I always thought like, oh, as a Christian, I should want to be pleasant and do things for people. And I kept going back to the, go the extra mile. But I also failed to realize that that's not, if it's not within, biblical context, you don't always go that far. You know, you got to honor God first, and then honor those around you. So
yes, exactly.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your testimony. I really appreciate that. And
thank you so much. Yeah,
thank you. All right, like I said, if y'all have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments, and we will get those answered to you.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.